Welcome to video 2. In this video, we'll be discussing your water test printout. It's important to get your water tested on a monthly basis, as well as whenever you might want an extra detailed report on how your water condition is behaving. You can feel free to bring your water samples in as often as you like. Let's just start right in from the top, shall we? The first thing I recommend to do is to print out your water test report. This will review with you your particular water volume, your actual test results, and the recommendations beside it. Your doses will be different than this demonstration printout, and it's important to follow your personalized pool prescription every time you get your water tested. Here's what the water test actually looks like. We have your particular information up top, information about your pool, your water test results, and then your corrections. Just so that you have a deeper understanding of the kinds of parameters that we're testing for and what those ideal ranges are, let's jump right into those, shall we? TDS stands for total dissolved solids. This is the amount of dissolved particles that are in your water. In a saltwater pool, it's very important that you have a detailed amount of particles. These particles are going to be salt as well as other dissolved minerals. This is a fresh pool, brand newly installed with no salt added yet, so the TDS is quite low. So the next thing we want to do is look at your ideal salt level, which is 4,000 parts per million. Every manufacturer has different recommendations on what their ideal salt level needs to be for their particular salt unit. On your particular unit, what you want to be doing is looking at your little green salt flashing light and determine how much salt your pool likes. Here we have your tested parts per million of salt. In this pool, there's 0 parts per million, but we're going to be correcting that shortly. Our target for this pool is 4,000. Your total chlorine reading is how much chlorine is in the pool. The free chlorine is how much is actively killing bacteria. We want all of your chlorine to be free to kill bacteria and 1 to 3 parts per million in the pool all the time. Testing your water at home with your test strips and adjusting the percentage of output on your salt unit is important. This is something to be doing 2 or 3 times a week in the beginning and at least a couple times a week for the duration that you have and love your pool. pH is a measure of how acidic or how alkali your water is. A swimming pool should be between 7.4 to 7.6. This is where people are most comfortable and where your sanitizer is most effective. CYA is cyanuric acid. Another word that we use is stabilizer. Stabilizer's job is to stabilize the chlorine that you're creating in your saltwater pool and protect it from being degraded by ultraviolet light from the sun. An ideal range of stabilizer is 30 to 50 ppm. TA stands for total alkalinity. Right now, the total alkalinity of this pool is 87. We want 125 to 150 to be our target range. The reason is alkalinity is a buffer of pH. So if our alkalinity is too low, it will pull our pH down. If your alkalinity is too high, it will pull your pH up. When your alkalinity is in the ideal range, it allows your pH to resist change. Ca is calcium hardness. This pool has 78 ppm. We want 150 to 175. Just like your body needs calcium, so does your pool. We'd hate to have osteoporosis of your liner or your pool heater happening. Cu, Fe, and Nn are copper, iron, and manganese. We want no metals in a pool situation. If there are ever metals present in your pool, there will be some corrections right in this section right here. All right, now that we've talked about what it is we're testing for and what our ideal ranges are like, let's talk about your homework, shall we? So, step 1, we want to put in 1 kilogram of Pristiva primer. This is the real key to having your saltwater pool work effectively. It's an algae preventer, water softener, scale preventer, and helps to ensure that the salt cell, where the chlorine generation takes place in your particular unit, lasts as long as possible. If we're not adding primer regularly, you'll have to replace this salt cell more often, and it costs you more money in the long run. All of the products that we recommend have detailed applications just below. So, for your Pristiva primer, you want to pour it slowly into your skimmer basket. If you have a sand filter, don't backwash for at least 6 hours. If you have a cartridge filter, that doesn't matter. You don't have to backwash. We want to wait at least 1 hour before we move on to the next step. In this particular pool, and very likely in yours, we're going to be adjusting alkalinity. The dosage might be different, so just, again, look at your personalized pool prescription. This pool needs 4 kilograms of Dazzle Alkalinity Plus. Broadcast it slowly and evenly across the pool surface. Sprinkle it, just like feeding the chickens. Wait at least 2 hours before moving on to the next step, but you can swim within 15 minutes. The following step is to increase the pH of this pool from 7.2 to 7.4 to 7.6. We'll do that with 359 grams of Dazzle pH+. Again, broadcast it slowly across the pool surface, and wait at least 1 hour before moving on to your next step. The next step is to add some stabilizer or cyanuric acid. This step doesn't go in very often, mostly just when you have a large freshwater application, like first thing in the spring, or when your pool is brand new, just like yours. Always have your water tested in a professional lab setting before adding stabilizer, as too much stabilizer, the only way to correct it is by partially draining the pool. We usually recommend adding instant UV blocks so that you can get immediate protection from ultraviolet rays. So add the 10 liters slowly around the edges of the pool, and then brush the walls immediately. It's normal to see a slight cloudiness happen. It will clear up by itself. It's also a good idea to shake the product well and just rinse the bottle with pool water to make sure you get all of that wonderful product into your pool. Move on to the next step after an hour. Here's where we get to the good stuff. Everybody always wants to add their salt and they want to add it right away, so here's where we get to do that. This particular pool needs 320 kilograms of Pristiva premium salt, which is 18 bags. There's no right or no wrong way to add this salt. Some folks will add all 18 bags in one application, or you can certainly divide this dose into smaller applications to make it easier to manage. Most folks will add 2 to 3 bags every few hours over a couple of days. That way the water won't go cloudy and it helps the pool to slowly absorb everything into solution, a nice gentle way. You want to broadcast this into the pool, just around the pool edges, preferably in the deep end. Add it 1 bag at a time, never put it through your skimmer, and just use your pool brush or your automatic pool cleaner to agitate the product so it's dissolved. Just make sure that you do not turn your salt unit on for 24 hours after adding the salt. We need to make sure that it has time to get into solution. Because your pool needs your salt generator to be working to establish and maintain a chlorine level, it's important to have some raw form chlorine in your skimmer basket right now, just some sticks or some pucks, just to keep your chlorine good until you can turn your salt chlorinator on. It's also an important tech tip to have some raw form chlorine at home if you ever need to have your salt unit off, either because the pool temperature is cold or because you're doing something with the chemistry or mechanics. After your salt is completely gone in and you've waited 24 hours, then we're going to add 1 kilogram of Pristiva Premium Shock. This is going to not just establish a chlorine level, but it's actually going to bind the molecules of your primer to your salt and ensure that you have the most smooth operation possible in your swimming pool that's a saltwater pool. It's very special. Broadcast it across the deep end, give it a brush after the application, and then wait at least an hour before moving on to the next step. So far, so good? Excellent. The final step is to increase the calcium hardness of this pool. Follow the dosage on your particular printout, but in this situation, we're looking to go from 78 to 150 to 175. So we're going to add 7 kilograms of Dazzle Calcium Plus. This particular product, we want to divide that total amount into 3 equal doses, waiting at least 3 hours or longer between each dose. Whenever there's a waiting period, you can wait longer, just not shorter. The reason is we want to give the pool time to absorb everything into solution to keep your water clear and shiny all the time. This comes conveniently in a 7 kilogram pail, so we're just going to divide by eye. You don't have to weigh or measure things very specifically for doses this large. Just by eye is perfect. In an 80,000 liter pool, we have lots of wiggle room. If a little too much goes in, you'll be on the higher end of the ideal range. If a little too little goes in, you'll be on the lower end of ideal. Once all of your corrections have finished, it's a really good idea to wait 48 to 72 hours and then bring a checkup water sample in for testing. This will ensure that all of the ideal things have come up into the perfect range, and then we can see you on monthly intervals for checkup water tests. Congratulations, your water is now balanced. Now, let's take a minute just to review your regular monthly salt pool routine. Now that we've talked about establishing a foundation of your water chemistry, let's talk about your regular routine care. As we mentioned in video 1, it's very straightforward, simple, easy, and really a saltwater pool is lots of fun. But there's a couple things to pay special attention to, and having a monthly care routine is quite important. So number one, make sure that you are having your water tested monthly and balancing it as required. There's all sorts of things that you cannot test for at home. Things like phosphates, metals, cyanuric acid content, and even then test strips are pretty great at testing chlorine levels, but they have some challenges with pH, alkalinity, calcium hardness, so having an in-lab test really is the best way to use as little chemicals as possible and really just to enjoy your pool. Spend more time in your pool and less time on it. Other than that, you do want to make sure you're maintaining a proper salt level. Your saltwater pool requires enough salt content in the pool to make sure that your unit is operating effectively, efficiently, and lasts a long time, making sure that that green light on your salt cell is perfect all the time. Having a monthly sample is good at that. If you ever notice that your salt unit asks you to add salt, just add 1 bag of Pristiva premium salt, wait 24 hours, and keep repeating that until the salt level is ideal. On a monthly basis, pick a day or a weekend where you're going to remember to do it, add yourself an email reminder, and apply Pristiva Primer slowly into your skimmer. Most people need 1 kilogram per month, and just refer again to your particular printout for your specific dosage directions. Immediately after your Pristiva Primer goes into your skimmer, you can put Pristiva Premium Shock into the deep end of your pool. Just broadcast it across the water surface and brush behind it if it settles to the bottom. Pristiva Shock is very important because it's actually what binds the molecules of your primer and your salt to your water to ensure that the primer can do its job of preventing scaling, staining, corrosion, making sure your chlorine generator lasts a long time, and algae prevention. When you're doing these things in a saltwater pool, your chlorine generator can be set to a lesser percentage, which means your salt generator will last a longer amount of time. It's also important that during periods of excessive rainfall, if a partial draining of your pool is needed, to drain the pool, wait 24 hours and bring in another water sample just to make sure that your salt level is correct. That's it. Very straightforward and very easy. As with all things pool related, if you have any questions at all, please do reach us anytime. Watercare at aqua-tech.ca or online chat 24/7. Now stay tuned for video 3, the top 10 tips that you need to know about your pool. Happy swimming!